The story of African Americans is a tapestry of resilience, creativity, and unwavering strength. Join us now as we explore the remarkable story of African Americans, a story that continues to inspire and shape the world. Long before the arrival of Europeans, Africa flourished with powerful kingdoms and empires. These civilizations left an indelible mark on the world, shaping art, trade, and knowledge. The notion of Africans reaching the Americas before Columbus challenges traditional historical narratives. Some historians point to similarities in art, language, and even plant life on both sides of the Atlantic. While skeptics remain, the possibility of pre-Columbian African contact continues to fascinate scholars and challenge our understanding of history. The transatlantic slave trade, a dark chapter in human history, would cast a long shadow, but it would also become a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Despite the horrors of slavery, they found ways to preserve their heritage, passing down stories, songs, and spiritual practices from generation to generation. Before the transatlantic slave trade cast its long shadow, Africa was a continent of diverse cultures, thriving economies, and powerful empires. The achievements of ancient African civilizations laid the foundation for centuries of innovation and cultural exchange. The transatlantic slave trade stands as one of the darkest chapters in human history. Yet, even in the face of such unimaginable cruelty, the human spirit found ways to resist. On the plantations of the Americas, enslaved Africans were subjected to brutal treatment, forced to labor under the constant threat of violence. But even within the confines of slavery, resistance flickered. The forced labor of enslaved Africans played a pivotal role in the economic development of the Americas. Their resilience, their ingenuity, and their unwavering spirit in the face of adversity helped shape the very character of the nations built upon their backs. As the institution of slavery tightened its grip on the Americas, so too did the whispers of freedom grow louder. The seeds of freedom, planted in the fertile ground of moral outrage, began to take root, setting the stage for a monumental struggle that would test the very soul of a nation. The American Revolution, a fight for liberty and self-determination, presented a moral dilemma for a nation that held millions in bondage. The seeds of division were sown, setting the stage for a future conflict that would test the very soul of the nation and the resolve of a people yearning to breathe free. As the 19th century unfolded, the fight for abolition gained momentum, fueled by the eloquent words and courageous actions of individuals who refused to be silenced. These beacons of hope, these courageous souls who dared to challenge the status quo, inspired generations of activists and reformers. The simmering tensions over slavery finally boiled over in 1861 with the outbreak of the American Civil War. They fought not only for their own liberation, but also for the recognition of their humanity and their rightful place in a nation still grappling with the legacy of slavery. Section 1. A Promise Deferred Reconstruction and the Rise of Jim Crow. The end of the Civil War brought with it the promise of a new era for African Americans, one in which they would finally be recognized as equal citizens in the land they had helped to build. Reconstruction, the period following the war, held the potential for profound social and political transformation. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery, The 14th Amendment granted citizenship and equal protection under the law, and the 15th Amendment gave black men the right to vote. For a brief, shining moment, Reconstruction offered a glimpse of what a truly just and equitable society could look like. Black men participated in government, held elected office, and sought to rebuild their lives and communities after centuries of oppression. Schools and churches were built, and black-owned businesses began to flourish. However, this period of progress was short-lived. The forces of white supremacy, threatened by the prospect of black equality, mounted a fierce counterattack. White Southerners, resentful of federal intervention and determined to maintain their social and economic dominance, resorted to violence, intimidation, and legal maneuvering to undermine Reconstruction efforts. The promise of equality, so recently within reach, began to slip away as the nation retreated from its commitment to racial justice. The seeds of Jim Crow, a system of segregation and disenfranchisement, were sown in the ashes of Reconstruction, casting a long shadow over the lives of African Americans for generations to come. Section 2. Separate and Unequal: The Pervasive Nature of Jim Crow. With the end of Reconstruction and the withdrawal of federal troops from the South, Jim Crow laws spread like wildfire, codifying racial segregation and discrimination into the very fabric of Southern society. These laws, enacted under the guise of separate but equal, permeated every aspect of life, from public transportation and education to housing and employment. Black people were relegated to inferior schools, hospitals, and public accommodations. They were barred from white neighborhoods, denied access to jobs and opportunities, and subjected to constant harassment and violence. The Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist groups terrorized black communities, enforcing Jim Crow through lynchings, beatings, and intimidation. The impact of Jim Crow was profound and far-reaching, creating a system of racial apartheid that denied black people their fundamental rights and relegated them to second-class citizenship. It fostered a culture of white supremacy, where racial prejudice and discrimination were not only tolerated but also encouraged and enforced by law. The psychological toll of Jim Crow was immeasurable. Black people were constantly reminded of their supposed inferiority, their dignity undermined by a system designed to keep them down. Yet, even in the face of such overwhelming oppression, they refused to be broken. The spirit of resistance kindled during slavery continued to burn bright, fueling the fight for equality and justice. Section 3. Resilience in the face of oppression. Black communities thrive. Despite the suffocating grip of Jim Crow, black communities found ways to resist, to survive, and to thrive. They built their own institutions, churches, schools, businesses, and cultural organizations, creating spaces of hope and opportunity in a society that sought to deny them both. Black churches became centers of community life, providing spiritual sustenance, social support, and leadership in the fight for equality. Schools, often underfunded and under-resourced, became beacons of hope, places where black children could receive an education and dream of a better future. Black entrepreneurs established businesses, providing essential goods and services to their communities and creating economic opportunities for themselves and others. Musicians, writers, and artists gave voice to the black experience, expressing the pain of oppression, the joy of resilience, and the unwavering hope for a brighter tomorrow. Through these acts of self-reliance, creativity, and community building, African Americans not only survived Jim Crow, but also laid the foundation for the civil rights movement that would transform the nation in the decades to come. Their resilience in the face of adversity stands as a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit and the unwavering belief in the promise of equality and justice. Section 1. The Winds of Change. A movement ignited. The mid-20th century witnessed a seismic shift in the fight for racial equality in America. The winds of change, carrying the hopes and dreams of generations who had endured the indignities of Jim Crow, gave rise to a powerful and transformative movement, the Civil Rights Movement. World War II had exposed the hypocrisy of fighting for democracy abroad while denying it to millions at home. African American soldiers, returning from battlefields where they had fought with valor, were no longer willing to accept second-class citizenship. A new generation of activists, armed with the unwavering belief in their inherent rights, rose to challenge the status quo. The year 1954 marked a pivotal moment. The Supreme Court's landmark decision in Brown v. Board of Education declared segregation in public schools unconstitutional, striking a blow against the very heart of Jim Crow. This legal victory, hard-fought and long-awaited, ignited a spark of hope and emboldened activists across the South. From the streets of Montgomery, Alabama, where Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus, to the lunch counters of Greensboro, North Carolina, where young activists staged sit-ins to protest segregated dining facilities, the civil rights movement gained momentum, challenging segregation and discrimination in every corner of American society. Section 2. From Montgomery to Washington, Marching Towards Freedom. The civil rights movement was a tapestry woven from countless acts of courage, both large and small. From the Montgomery bus boycott, a year-long protest that crippled the city's transportation system and catapulted a young Martin Luther King Jr. to national prominence, to the Freedom Rides, where activists risked their lives to challenge segregation on interstate buses. The movement showcased the power of nonviolent resistance and the unwavering determination of a people fighting for their freedom. The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963 became a defining moment in the civil rights movement. Hundreds of thousands of people, black and white, converged on the nation's capital to demand equal rights and an end to racial discrimination. King's iconic "I Have a Dream" speech, delivered from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, articulated the hopes and aspirations of a generation yearning for freedom and equality. The movement's triumphs were hard-won, often met with fierce resistance from white supremacists and law enforcement officials determined to maintain the status quo. The images of peaceful protesters being attacked with fire hoses and police dogs in Birmingham, Alabama, shocked the nation and galvanized support for the cause of civil rights. Despite the violence and intimidation, the civil rights movement pressed on, its moral authority unwavering, its message of equality resonating across the nation and around the world. The eyes of the world were watching, and America could no longer ignore the injustices perpetrated against its own citizens. Section 3. Legacies of Courage, the Price of Freedom. The civil rights movement achieved significant legal victories, dismantling the legal framework of Jim Crow and ushering in an era of unprecedented progress for African Americans. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, while the Voting Rights Act of 1965 guaranteed the right to vote for all citizens, regardless of race. These legislative triumphs were the culmination of years of struggle, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to justice. They were a testament to the courage of countless individuals who risked their lives and livelihoods to challenge an unjust system. However, the fight for equality was far from over. The assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968 and Malcolm X in 1965 sent shockwaves through the nation, casting a shadow over the movement's triumphs and highlighting the deep-seated nature of racial hatred and violence in America. The struggle for economic justice, educational equity, and an end to police brutality continued, exposing the systemic nature of racism that persisted even as legal barriers crumbled. The civil rights movement had ignited a fire for change, but the journey towards a truly just and equitable society remained a long and arduous one. Section 1. A Legacy Forged in Resilience. The journey through time reveals a profound and enduring truth. The African American legacy is one of remarkable resilience, unwavering determination, and an unyielding belief in the promise of America. From the ancient kingdoms of their ancestors to the forefront of modern society, African Americans have shaped the very soul of a nation. They have endured the horrors of slavery, the sting of segregation, and the persistent challenges of systemic racism. Yet, through it all, their spirits have never been broken. They have emerged from the crucible of adversity with a strength and determination that continues to inspire. Their contributions to American culture, art, music, literature, science, and politics are immeasurable. They have enriched the nation's tapestry with their creativity, their intellect, and their unwavering pursuit of excellence. Their voices, once silenced, now resonate powerfully, demanding recognition, equality, and justice. The story of African Americans is not just a chapter in American history. It is the story of America itself, a story of triumph and tragedy, of struggle and progress, of a nation striving to live up to its ideals. Section 2. The Unfinished March Towards Equality. While much progress has been made since the Civil Rights Movement, the journey towards equality is far from over. The legacy of slavery and segregation continues to cast a long shadow, manifesting in persistent racial disparities in education, healthcare, housing, and criminal justice. The struggle for equal opportunity, economic justice, and an end to systemic racism remains an ongoing battle. The fight against police brutality, mass incarceration, and voter suppression are stark reminders that the fight for equality must continue. The African American community, however, has never been defined solely by the challenges it faces. It is a community rich in resilience, creativity, and an unwavering belief in the power of hope. From the streets to the voting booths, from classrooms to courtrooms, African Americans continue to raise their voices, demanding change and fighting for a more just and equitable future. The struggle for equality is a marathon, not a sprint. It requires constant vigilance, unwavering commitment, and a belief in the power of collective action. The journey may be long, but the destination, a society where all are treated with dignity and respect, where opportunity is not limited by race or ethnicity, is well worth the fight. Section 3. An Enduring Legacy, a Hopeful Future. As we look to the future, the African American legacy serves as both an inspiration and a call to action. It reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable adversity, the human spirit can prevail. It teaches us that change is possible, but it requires unwavering commitment, courage, and a belief in the power of unity. The lessons learned from the struggles and triumphs of African Americans are not theirs alone to carry. They are lessons for all Americans, indeed for all people, to embrace. The fight for equality and justice is a shared responsibility, one that demands empathy, understanding, and a commitment to dismantling systems of oppression wherever they exist. The African American story is a testament to the power of hope, the importance of perseverance, and the unwavering belief in the promise of a brighter tomorrow. It is a story that continues to unfold, a story that we all have a role in shaping. Let us honor this legacy not just with words, but with actions. Let us work together to build a society that truly embodies the ideals of justice, equality, and opportunity for all. The journey may be challenging, but the destination, a world where all can live up to their full potential, free from the constraints of prejudice and discrimination, is a goal worthy of our greatest aspirations.